Well, I mean, but I mean,
the hour is 7 o'clock, just turned. So, welcome everyone. Can we open the public session of the meeting? We've got two people that want to speak to us tonight. Jeff Slawson on planning, a planning matter, and Lee Bond. So the idea is give us. Oh, and I'm sorry, Rosemary, I do beg your pardon. Sorry. So allow these speakers to prepare their speech and deliver it, and then by all means ask some questions. If you just put your hand up with any relevant questions you want to ask. But let's make it snappy as best we can. Rosemary, do you want to start us off, please?
No. Yes, thank you very much. On the agenda tonight is a planning application, a retrospective planning application for the Shaded Woodlands cottage. I'm part owner of that cottage. Now, it was never any intention to break any planning rules. I studied the guidance beforehand. The shed that we chose was within the height, the recommended height range. I gather there's maybe a problem about ground levels, but I actually personally dug away half a hillside in order to level that one that was already there. There was already a retaining wall before I did any work, and I'm just very sorry that it's come to this matter. The shed was actually erected during COVID times, so it's been up for 2 years, and we actually had significant help from neighbours in putting it up. So thank you.
Okay. Any questions of Rosemary regarding that particular planning application? Rosemary, can you just, before we carry on, can you just tell us more about how the shed, David, is, how the shed is sited in relation to the site? Because I think this is not a level site, is it? It is an elevated site.
It's an elevated site. I've actually got a picture of what the level looked like before. What's the site look like? So that's the original site. There were buildings. There was originally structures on that site. So that you can see the slope. There is a slope with a grade. And that's a storage area, that's a shed, at that height. And what I did, so I looked at the guidance, which was about the heights and what we thought we were allowed to put up, and the distance from boundaries, and what was put up. Let me just say, sorry, I lost the picture. Sorry, Susan. I picture just now. It showed. Did I put it?
You've gone that way, you gave the picture out.
No, there was another one. Sorry, that was annotated that showed the sloping level, the existing wall, and the amount that was removed from the slope. So it was never built any higher than it was. And it's not viewed from the road at all, it's behind the current property. Is that all right?
Thanks, Rosemary. Any other questions of Rosemary at all? Okay, thank you. Well, as Rosemary started on that one, Jeff.
You've seen most of this. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a neighbour of the cottage, shed, whatever we want to call it. I've owned my property since 1984. been through a lot of trauma with neighbours who were building within the rules, without the rules, etc. Had a lot of fights over this issue. So I'm well versed in what is permissible and what isn't. Now, at the start of this erection, I spoke to Mr. McGann, and he told me that it was really none of my business because it was all within permitted development. So, not being familiar with permitted development, it's a new thing on the scene, I was not in a position to confront him. I had to do research on permitted development when an earlier application came in with regard to extending the actual cottage, nothing to do with the particular shed stroke cabin. As a result of that, I believe that it was withdrawn for various reasons. I don't think we need to go into those why, but I raised an issue with planning enforcement that why had they not done anything about some of the issues that were raised in the withdrawn planning application. And they told me they are completely separate division, so they don't get involved with it. What is it that I'm complaining about? So I sent in photographs and I asked them to start an enforcement. They told me that they need more photographs. They actually asked McGanns or Ruth, I don't know who. I was told the applicants were going to submit photographs, and I got a letter back saying, yes, there's a major issue with it. They will have to put in for planning permission and or remove the cabin or lower the actual cabin height. Because my objection is the property is grossly overdeveloped, and if they had followed permitted development, they would never have even started, because permitted development only allows you to take your curtilage, which is your total boundary, minus the house area, and what is left you can develop since 1948, and they have some figures that you're not permitted under permitted development to exceed 50% of this area that's left. When the application was in for the house extension, it came to 91%, which is what I raised with them, and it has been withdrawn. But what wasn't on that application was all to do with the shed. So now the shed is the issue. Now the shed under permitted development can only be built if it's going to not exceed 50%. We are currently at 87% of this factor. So it shouldn't have ever been started. But now that it has and it exists, it is a problem that it affects our privacy because it is so elevated. It's been actually elevated in accordance with the rules by 4 foot. So think of it, they've stuck a cabin 4 foot higher than it should have been according to the land. And that's what's causing me a problem. They overlook us, and in fact the windows of this cabin are at the same level as one of my bedroom windows, and you can see straight in. Which is why I'm really upset. I do not want this to go ahead because I will be in a continual fight with them. And they never asked anything to do with planning. The earlier things, and I told Rosemary later on when you came back and said it was all this, that and the other, I told you to go back to the specifications and read them. You don't know what you're talking about, and you've withdrawn all that. But anyway, there is a massive area which appears to be garden. In fact, it is a concrete slab from one of the previous sagas to do with woodlands. They had a massive barn, 22 foot square, illegally erected, concrete, etc. And it took nearly 17 years to get that actually removed. But the foundation's still in position. you can go in any of this area and try and put a fork in it. It's concrete. So it is already grossly overdeveloped. And when you look at it, you think, well, I can send drawings around, etc., and show you how much is actually garden and how much is development. But I'm told this isn't really an issue at the moment. But that's what my issue is. They couldn't put this in a worse place for myself. If they'd have actually stuck it on this area that was already developed, it would be at least 26 inches lower and not being a problem if they'd also turned it around 90 degrees. I wouldn't care less whether they're going in and out over there. We don't hear it, or we wouldn't see it, we wouldn't hear it. But at the moment, they can stand on their front door looking out and talk to us over the fence. They can look down to where we want our barbecues, and as I said, at the same level, straight across, it goes to one of our bedrooms.
Okay, Jeff, thank you. In summary, try and make this...
It's a privacy issue.
Yes, it's the... What you're saying is this garden room has been placed right at the top of this development, of the cottage area.
That's correct.
And its height and its position is looking straight down into your property.
Well, at an angle.
At an angle, and you claim that because of this there is overlooking and loss of privacy. That is essentially what you're saying.
That's what you can deal with. The rest of it I have to take up with planning about gross overdevelopment of a country property.
Are there any questions for Jeff at all? We're obviously going to deal with this later on, Jeff. Any questions? No? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, there's a question.
Have you got any
Oh, sorry.
fences showing the
Exactly.
heights of the shed
Exactly.
You haven't got
I think Rosemary's got pictures.
and how much of it's, I
I'd
presume
like
it
to see how,
sticks over this fence?
yeah, I'd like to see how close it is to the adjoining current.
Those pictures don't show the height of the...
Yeah.
You've got a photograph, haven't you?
Yeah, the drawing into the planning is a joke.
Well, no,
There's no elevation.
Jeff, we'll deal with that.
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
It's not clear on the location plan and on the plans that were submitted with your application where your property actually sits.
Exactly.
Well, not exactly, because that looks like a proper plan that would be submitted to the planning authority. So I would like to understand where your actual building sits in relation
My house
to
is
this.
north-south.
Do you have a picture, a plan that could be, because it's difficult to visualise. Is it possible, Rachel?
On the location
Application.
On the location. I'm just up here.
There's a location plan.
Well, it doesn't.
Okay.
No houses.
Well, I thought in the plans it looked like it was towards the front, not the back.
We have got a location plan on the screen. When we come to discuss the plan,
Photos showing
it's
where
actually
it
up
looks
there.
to.
So
That's the first floor of the cottage, looking at uphill. Here's the first terrace wall, 22 inches high. This whole area here is concrete, but disguised with gravel over the top of it. And to make it a bit more convincing, there's also below the gravel weed suppressant. People don't normally put weed suppressant over concrete, only if it's garden. So it appears at first sight that it's garden. And then there's another retaining wall there, and then they built this on top. That's it. And this is my property, and my property looking across at it. It's up here, and my property is all down here. I think you can just see a greenhouse there.
No. I think one of the
Another shot
problems-
there. You can see how high it is relative to a patio we've got.
I think one of the problems with this is there is
This
an
is a
elevation.
view
Hang
from...
on, Jeff, hang on a minute. I think one of the problems, councillors, and it's not shown in the planning documents, which we'll discuss later, but there is an elevation problem here. because it goes from there to there, and the shed is up there. That's the issue, which hopefully has now come out.
I mean,
Thank you, Jeff.
If you can actually give some comment, I don't think it's in your remit, but if you give some comment, I am amenable for it to stay if it's moved and down.
Jeff, we will look at this purely from a planning application.
Sure.
That's what this is. And Sarah will deliver her investigation into this planning and take into consideration the comments of Rosemary and yourself. So, thank you very much. Okay?
So do you need any more submissions from me?
No. We understand the issue.
And as I say, the other thing is that the windows look into our bedroom.
Yes,
And
we picked that up. Yes, thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. Okay, our last speaker, Lee Bond.
Oh.
Lee, hi.
Yeah, good evening. A bit of a change of subject.
Yeah, that's all right. You can do it.
Food. That's what I do. Fish and chips. Good old traditional fish and chips. My father owns the Esplanade Fish Bar in Birmingham-on-Sea. Been there 25 years. I've got concessions with Sedgemoor District Council in the area. And we've got a mobile fish and chip van which is fully self-contained with a roto generator. I was talking to Jane, as she's my next door neighbour, just in discussions. Said about using the shop car park on a Friday and Saturday evening to potentially serve fish and chips to the local residents of Brent Knoll and East Brent. Just thought I'd put it out there and see what everyone thought on it, really.
What time?
Well, keep the hours short and simple, possibly 4:30 to 4:45 until 8 PM, packed up and gone before it's late.
Okay. I've got one question, but please feel free, councillors. But how are you going to deal with the litter problem for anyone that comes in and wants to eat their chips on the
I've got
green?
my own commercial waste collection down at the Esplanade.
Okay.
Bins will be provided and all rubbish cleared.
Okay.
Any litter scattered will be picked up by me or members of staff,
Okay.
and it will be left in the
As
state.
you find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we take a bit of pride in keeping the village.
Yeah, I respect that, yeah. I'm a local resident of Brent Knoll. We recently purchased Elderbury Farm on Burton Road about a year and a half ago. And we just noticed that there's no fish and chips around here. We noticed in Mark you've got a van that pulls up on a Friday and Saturday evening. So I drove over there and had a look at it. Good little trade.
Okay.
And I think Brent Knoll could have the same, and I could offer something to the community and the local residents.
Yeah. Any questions of Lee? Any further questions? You want to ask a question, Jeff? Go on.
Will it need an application for a licence? Does that infringe anything to do with the current trading?
No, you're testing me. I imagine some sort of licence you would already have, which is food handling licence.
I've got food
You have
hygiene,
that, that's the thing you would have. With food
and I've
handling.
got public liability of 5 million cover in place. As I said, I work with Sedgemoor District Council, so I'm vetted by Sedgemoor.
Okay.
I have the Apex Park,
Yeah.
South Esplanade, another one in Apex Park, Bream Beach, Berry Beach,
Okay.
which I operate from on a daily basis.
Okay.
The only thing you would need is official sort of notification that we're prepared to allow the use of the car park, if that's what you're going to do. But apart from that, I can't see any reason.
The generator that I used is silenced, so obviously the noise element of it is quite
Fine.
as can be for a generator.
Yeah, no, that's quite understand. You've got to get some power from something.
Yeah.
Any other questions of Lee?
It's the last item on the agenda this evening.
Yeah. Yes, so don't feel as if you've got to wait till the last item. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Take care. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Lee.
Bye.
Okay, we'll close the public session now and open our formal session. Please, in theory, you should not interfere now with the running of this meeting, as you are mere observers. Okay. I'm sorry to be dictatorial or sounded, but that's the way we work. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, welcome everyone to our September meeting. Gosh, time goes. Item 1, apologies.
Just Bob, actually, he unfortunately succumbed to COVID, so he's had a positive test today. Decided it wasn't a very good idea to come here tonight and speak to everybody else, so he's stayed away.
Okay, can you just signify that you accept this, please? Thank you. Declarations of interest. I suppose me and the shop as a shareholder. Any other interest, Tracy? Shareholder in the shop? Shareholder Jane? Okay. No interest in any of the planning applications at all? Okay, thank you. Co-option to fill the current vacancy.
There should be some minutes, actually, just approving the minutes from the 2 previous meetings, 6th of July and 3rd of August. Unless you've got a different ones again.
No. Oh, I'm sorry.
We haven't had 2 meetings.
Oh yes, you've received the minutes of the last 2 meetings, 6th of July, 3rd of August. Are you happy that I sign them as a true record of those meetings? Can you signify? Thank you. Great. Thanks very much. To approve the co-option process.
Yeah, the co-option process came about as the result of resignation from one of our councillors, Nigel Summers, which leaves one vacancy on the parish council. We did our usual bit, which is notifying on notice board 14 days for anybody who wanted to force an election as opposed to a co-option, and that would have provided the opportunity to have a formal process. Nobody came forward, and so that now throws the door open to the parish council to co-opt a member under our normal vacancy procedure, and that is a 28-day notice on the notice boards and on the website, giving people the opportunity to come forward if they wish to be considered for co-option. We do have one vacancy, one applicant already, but there may be others who decide to put themselves forward over the next 28 days. In actual fact, 28 days is the day before our October meeting when we will make the decision. So it's very closely timed actually. It means I've got to get the notice on the board tonight, which means that the 28 days will suffice. So that's the procedure. That's the notice that will go up. If go up on the notice board, it's a legally drafted notice. That will go on both notice boards and the website. And hopefully we'll have a suitable applicant to co-opt in October. And that's where we are with the
Questions about questions? Obviously, if you know anyone that is considering, or you can persuade them to take more of an interest in parish council, that would be great.
Just one clarification I do need to make, and we did have somebody who was on the original application when we had the 5 co-options in June, and he, I can say it was, he would have come on board had we not had another applicant. If we've never another applicant, we've now got to go to 28-day notice. He may decide to put himself up again, although having not been very keen the last time, put up for a second time. I think it's probably unlikely, but he will still have the opportunity to do so if he wishes to. So we might have 2 applicants, but we've definitely got 1. Okay.
Thanks, sir. Okay, planning. We've got 2 to look at. One is a revised planning application which is not on the list, but we need to just reconsider it. But let's take the first one. Sarah, are you happy with 0722 0018 Woodlands Cottage?
Yeah, I wasn't up there.
Yeah, by all means.
Is this chair up there?
No, but we'll get you on. You are?
Is that right?
Yeah.
It's easier. So,
Okay.
Sorry, what you've got up on the screen. This is
yeah, it's
the
really looking at
location
plans.
plan.
So firstly, Jeff and Rosemary, thank you for the clarification from both of you, because I think that there were no observations, no third-party interested, third-party letters that were put into the application that gave a bit more of an insight. So it's really interesting to see the elevation issue, and there were no photographs that were included, so that's quite...
It's still early days. I only got...
No,
Hang on,
I appreciate that, but
please,
that's all that we can go on at this point in time, is the purpose of making that clear. So the clarification really is helpful, so thank you for that. Just a reminder to all of us, we know it, but no weighting should be allocated to the fact that it is the retrospective application. It did seem to be fairly straightforward, and the clarification just needs to be, I think, addressed. I think that's one issue that perhaps does create something that we need to discuss further. The works, as Rosemary said, started on the 1st of June, I believe, in 2020, completed on the 30th of June 2020. The external materials seem to be what one would expect. It's a retrospective application for the erection of a detached garden room. So you've got a felt roof with timber painted windows and doors.
See the floor plan there, first of all.
The elevation.
The floor plan. Tell me what you want. This floor plan, proposed floor plan. This is the entire documents we have, actually.
It's a shop.
No?
So where did those
No.
plans come from? Because I didn't have those plans.
Yeah, they're on the
They're on the website, aren't they? So that's the nearest I can
Yeah.
provide you with.
Okay, I've seen this plan, so I only saw 3 plans.
Yeah, can you go to the one with the blocks?
Because that would help in terms of the
Yeah.
elevation, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so from the application itself, there's no impact is proposed, or that there is no impact of the trees, hedges and the surrounding area to access to the premises, pedestrian rights of way, the roads or parking, so there's no considerations to be made there. Woodlands Cottage is not listed. From the plans, it would appear that the footprint is certainly in keeping in size with the surrounding area. It looks a similar size to the storage room, so it doesn't look to be out of proportion with that. It seems to be in keeping. As I said, there's no objections or letters, but it is an early stage at this point. The previous application that's made this year does not appear to impact on this at all. I couldn't find this was in that application, so it's not something that has been considered previously. That was withdrawn in any event, and it was related largely to other issues, title issues and matters that perhaps weren't particularly to do with planning considerations that we would consider here. From what I could see, I couldn't actually consider whether or not there was an issue of impacting privacy or dominating and overshadowing adjoining properties. And if you've got the location plan, I think it's probably the location plan that's probably the best
Just
one.
one observation on
Yes,
there. There are no dimensions shown. No dimensions whatsoever. There's none on any
I
of the
think the height
drawings.
was one that concerned me, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
just the...
Nothing. No square footage shown, no width, no height, no length. It's
I think I just...
complete, you know, and an architect has been commissioned to do that.
I think it's just the fact that you assume that it's the proportionate.
The fixed floor
Hang on,
level.
No, you can't see anything.
There.
No.
So I think, yeah, we've got the location. What I need to understand is how close the adjoining premises is to the boundary of the garden room. See, I couldn't see anything at the back.
The garden room is
Certainly.
there,
Yeah,
there, and Romford, which is Mr. Slauson's house, is here.
yeah.
And obviously, what he's complaining about is the height that is on the elevated ground, which looks straight into his house. That's what he's complaining about.
Are the windows we've got pictures again. I just wondered if the windows inside are there actually windows that overlook the curtilage here and the boundary here?
No.
No, there's the windows to the front, aren't they? So it's the front bit here. That is
Right.
the concern is that this front bit here, those windows overlook your property in that direction. Okay, so because there's a boundary wall here that is, it's about the same height as the top of the windows.
But the house is lower because the
No.
ground is
But I'm
down.
assuming we're looking at,
So
The
the house is higher.
Windowsill
yeah,
is,
Jeff,
Yeah.
please, please.
yeah, I'm just trying to clarify on the elevation.
You can't see how steep it
No,
is
that's
from
the
the
problem with
pictures
the
or the plans, but it is like, so where it is up here
So, okay,
in comparison
The bedroom's
to...
on a comparable height with the shed.
okay. So councillors, I mean, what, I assume that you've all looked at it and I just want to know what your thoughts are because without having the height, that's the only part of it.
It's very difficult.
Yeah, that's the only part of it that would have concerned me. I felt the footprint seemed to be in keeping. And where it was, then wasn't overlooking some of the properties. And I'd assume that the height, that, you know, I can't make any assumptions on the height, as you say, there weren't measurements there, so you can't make those assumptions. So I think the concern that I would have is, well, it can be seen from here, or the question is, can it be seen, and is that overlooking? And, yeah.
Okay, from my point of view, it is impossible to know unless you are stood at that
That's
point
it, yeah.
and you are then subjected to what your height is of standing in windows to make an assumption on that drawing. It is impossible
That's-
without physically standing there
That's
with the information we have in front of us.
Yeah.
There are no
There are no measurements.
dimensions,
No dimensions.
no question of the siting of this in terms of elevations because it's on a hillside, whereas Romford is below and level probably with the existing cottage. This is mounted not at the first tier, at the very top tier of the garden.
It's very plausible, as you said, to think that if you are stood there, you're on a hill and you are looking across, but until you're physically there to see it, it is
And
impossible
are you
without
actually
dimensions.
also going to be stood, it's more if you're inside looking out of the windows, because there's not much area there to stand, you're not going to stand there, you're going to stand here. And the windows, it's the top of the window, it's at the top of the door, and you're going to be here. It's not like it's an upstairs where you're looking out. That's the concern that I have, that yes, you can see it, I'm sure you can see the top of it, but then along the boundary here, you've got foliage as well, so it's difficult without actually being on the premises to know, to understand how much that obscures, the fencing obscures, and it's your line of sight, whether that obscures the line of sight from the property, we're told potentially not. I don't think, my feeling is that you're not overlooking, because it would be the top of the window. I don't think it would be. I think it's more that this property here could see it. You can see the top of it. Just from that, but without actually being in the property and not having seen that in the pack. So I think, I felt it's a straightforward application, but there was limitations in terms of the size, as you said, and the height was something that would have been a concern, but it wasn't something that we were aware of. Whereas the footprint itself seemed to be in keeping and proportionate, and there didn't seem to be any properties behind that could overlook. But with the height, you then do have a potential concern, and it's been raised here today with the line of sight and whether you can oversee it. So that would be my concern.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a look at this myself, and on the planning information there's no reference to any elevations, and there are no dimensions shown on any of the drawings as to what is actually built there. You would have thought someone would have detailed the dimensions. Notwithstanding that, I think that I can well understand that someone wanted to have a garden room, but I understand that if it is built within 2 metres of your boundary, then you have to have planning permission, and that's why this has now come up. Notwithstanding that, The poor architectural detail doesn't help us in any way, and neither does the fact that the elevations aren't shown, plus the fact that Mr. Slawson has indicated that he does have overlooking and potentially loss of privacy, which is a legitimate planning consideration. And yes, I mean,
Do we know how close it is to the boundary?
yes, it's more or less, well, it's within 2 metres of the boundary.
But that's why we're putting in the application is full application, it's not going to permitted developments, it's full
No,
application.
it's
so
a
that's
straightforward,
the
yeah,
reference,
straightforward
So that
planning
is next
application.
door's boundary.
That's why
Yes.
the application's
Right, okay.
Yes, and it's within 2 metres of that fence. Okay, hence you've got to have planning permission. So, any more observations, or what do you feel about this? It is a difficult one because it's already there, but should they have asked for planning permission, and would these issues have been resolved at the time? Did they ignore that? I know that's not in fact, that's not a proper planning consideration. Yeah, but you've got it before you. A potential overlooking and loss of privacy issue. Any proposals?
I would propose no observations on the basis that
Insufficient
I don't
evidence.
think there's enough information without actually being there. I don't feel there's enough information.
Just let me clarify, if you go no observations, you don't need to put anything at all, because you're,
Yeah,
you're
that's
actually saying
Then
the
it allows
second
it to
we
go
want
through
you
its
to go.
process, that's what I mean, so I feel like
Yeah.
we can't, there'll be no observations, it's not an approval, it's a rejection.
I would second that.
Sorry, does that mean it goes to appeal?
Not necessarily, but no observations means effectively we're bypassing our responsibility by making any assessment of it and saying to Stage 4, thank you very much, you decide. In other words, we're uncertain about what our view should be.
But can we not in our observations make the
Well,
point?
if you make no observations.
No
No
observations.
observations.
Because once you make comments, you're actually making an
So
observation.
we'd be rejecting
Well,
acceptance.
My counter proposal would be that we refuse this application on the basis of overlooking loss of privacy and poor architectural detail.
I'd be prepared to second that.
Because then they'll look at that.
They'll have a
Well,
look
when
at
we
it.
had our planning training, they said if you reject it, but put why, then it will be looked at to correct that issue before it's sent on, and it won't come back
If
to
you
us,
put
it's then sent
observations in,
on.
would it not go through that process
No.
anyway?
Yeah,
It would do, because if there are objections were made in due course, then that would be part of the normal planning process that we considered.
Yeah,
And that, I think, is what would be fairer,
yeah, I
if we
agree
have,
with
in
you,
my opinion.
yeah.
As far as I'm aware, that once we say no observations, that is it. We've
Yeah.
effectively washed our hands of any consideration of it, including any comments about it either side, for or against.
Is there a
That's
middle
what I
ground?
understand it as being.
Is there a middle ground to say it's not possible to make a decision based on an architect's drawings with no measurements? You can't make a decision based on what you're seeing.
I think basically we were told that those are the plans and that's what you've got to go on, that's what we but
If you haven't got sufficient plans to make a
Yeah.
decision, then effectively you're saying, no, we can't make a decision. So therefore you're making an observation.
Observations, that
Yeah.
has been.
Yeah,
but the real issue then is not addressed.
but nobody has, if nobody has, on the planning application, nobody has written in with any concerns. I mean, if we're looking at what's contained within the planning application,
Well, we're here to listen also
Yeah.
to what
Yeah.
others are saying, but I just feel that there are two sides to that, and actually without being at the property.
and we're not at the property,
Yeah, and if we said no observations, those concerns would be raised in the normal
With
process
sensible,
and be allowed to go
yeah.
through its proper process without us impacting that. Because
yeah,
I don't think we can consider it further without actually being inside plans. Would be my opinion about that.
yeah, I agree.
So I made a proposal which was seconded So,
So did Sarah.
sorry? Yes.
So did Sarah.
But is there a seconder for Sarah?
Yes, I seconded.
Okay. So let's take
No odds, first of all.
let's take the vote on no observations and pass it through. All those in favour of no observations? Plus Sarah.
Yeah, there's two then.
Okay. And those against? Okay.
It's definitely not
Okay.
observations on, is it?
So the proposal is that we reject this on the grounds of inadequate architectural detail and the likelihood, or well, not likelihood, the problem of overlooking loss of privacy.
How's that?
Okay.
Okay.
All those in favour? Against? You should mark yourselves against. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Next one. Do you want to do the? We've had a resubmission.
We can't discuss this.
Sorry.
We can't discuss the resubmission unless. Let me just, can I just fill you in on the details? I spoke to the planning officer on the 140 Brent Street. It's been before the council twice, and on both occasions we rejected it. It's now come forward with another amendment, but because it missed the deadline for going on to this agenda, we've got two choices. If we decide that there's no change, and the decisions we've taken previously are not materially affected by the changes, then I can simply go back to the case officer and say everything is as is. If, however, you feel that the changes that have been made would change the material decision of the council, then we need to meet again and discuss it, but we need to publish it 3 clear days before a meeting, which we didn't have the opportunity to do this time. So that's giving you the legal position of the situation. So it's either keeping it as it is and saying we're happy with what we decided before, and we wouldn't make any different decision, or we're happy to re-look at it again in the light of changes, having given it 3 clear days notice on the notice board to give the opportunity to go forward with it. So that's the choice you've got as a council on that one. But what you can't do is discuss it as a planning application with the changes at this meeting, because it hasn't been published.
That's a difficult one.
Clear at the times the journey.
Sorry?
Thank you for clarifying that. That's really helpful.
Do you want to? Have you had a look at it?
I have had a look at it, but obviously there are significant amendments to the plans, or a number of amendments to the plans that I do, having considered them, think that they do address some of the concerns that we have made in both July 6th and August 3rd. And therefore, if we can't discuss them, I think my position would be that we should look at them when due notice has been given.
Which brings us to another situation, because of course if we go to the October meeting, we run out of time. Because it's only 21 days we've got to make a decision. So we need a provisional meeting on 2 weeks from today. We need a provisional meeting in order to discuss that planning application. Plus any others that come in the meanwhile, which might not just be one, it might be some more. That's where we are. Yeah, probably might. Yeah. So sorry to be confusing about
Has
it all,
anyone
but
else had a look at this application? And is you do you have the same one?
Well, it's difficult. You can't really debate it, but
Well, no, indeed.
there are changes, but I think there are still the same issues.
Yes.
Yeah, the same issues are still there. But if you want to discuss it more, I think that might not be a bad idea.
it is also likely, of course, and when this application came up in July, there was a significant number of comments on the website. Those comments are likely to come back again, and so therefore it's another reason why we shouldn't be discussing it before it's had a chance to become established.
I would suggest to everyone that we leave it until the 21st and look at it again. Yeah, because there are changes and it could affect the way you look at it.
And there may be other matters on the 21st that we also need to add to the agenda.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Is that anything behind you?
You made it.
Nothing, just means that
I didn't expect to before doing.
Okay, item 6. We're on to footpaths now. Anything on footpaths, anyone? Yes, Amanda.
I did a few notes walking around the reservoir. As you go through the gate, turning right-handed, going like past Woodland, not Woodland, so it's on the brain, Windy Ridge, and you go right-handed. There is very, very overgrown coming from the field side and from the hedge side, and the field, where there's a fence which is like stock fence and stakes and some old horse tape, there is some hedging which is growing up on the field side and through it, which is going like this. So both sides it's crowding over. There are also saplings coming up from the hedge side, grass, nettles and all sorts of stuff. So it is pretty overgrown. On the first field, which I believe belongs to Heather Alsop, and the second field, which I think belongs to the Cases, the people that I believe they bought that field. I'm not 100% sure, but I think so. That is exactly the same in terms of overgrowth. So it is, tricky. And also, when you go through the very last gate, past the last field, to what we used to call the water tower, where the metal fence starts, that's pretty overgrown there as well. The first bit, then it opens out and it's fine. But there is a degree of undergrowth there.
Thanks, Amanda. I've been challenged by this by someone on the condition of this path, and I said that we'd be looking at it. Heather Alsop in Lymsham owns the path. It used to be cleared by Mike Diamond once a year, and it's a very popular path to use with people in the village, particularly that walk the dogs, and also people that come up from East Brent. We really need to get something done about it, and it's not our footpath, as I explained to someone that spoke to me about it. We need to put some pressure on Heather Alsop to do something about it. That's the one end. The other end, i.e. the tank's end, is Bristol Water from memory.
We normally send them a message, don't we?
Yeah.
They just
I've got a contact on Bristol Water.
Yeah. Now they haven't strimmed, I noticed, the grass in the actual tanks area at the moment, so it could well be that someone's due to go there. So if we could
Get that
spend that. And then, I mean, Heather's on Lymsham Parish Council, isn't she? Got a feeling she is.
Yeah,
I think she is.
yeah.
I don't think she owns both of those fields though. I think the second one was bought by, do you know that, David?
Right.
I think
I
she
don't know
bought
actually. I don't know.
I don't know if she bought both of those,
Yeah.
because there was talk at one time that the Cases had bought the other field. So
Well,
she certainly owns the first one.
Yeah, she's never said to me, "Oh, that's not my field."
No, so she possibly did buy
The bakers own the first
the
field.
first one.
She owns
Then
the
she
rest.
owns it, yes.
Yeah. So I think the important thing, it needs. We can take this two ways really. One, we can get onto Heather also to do it. Alternatively, we could tell her that we're going to engage Steve Pinn to do it and then charge her. Or alternatively, we come to some arrangement with her whereby we do a little bit and she does a little bit, which she pays for. But that path needs to be kept open.
And it's got to be done to a standard which is accessible.
Yes, so people can go there without fear of getting stung or brambles or tree branches in their faces. So I'll speak to Heather. I'll speak to Heather and report back, and Owen will get in touch with Bristol Water. Okay.
Who are normally fairly accommodating.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Anything else on footpaths? you'll notice that the horse field, Karen has taken the fence down where the horses are behind the school, and she wants, when Kenny Gordon does it, she wants the path widened, so she's taken her fence down. She's got a supply of posts and rails which Kenny Gordon is going to re-erect, so you'll have hopefully a wider path which will be have a membrane about on it, and then stone chippings to make it last through the winter.
Yippee!
Did I hear a yippee? Yeah, it's taken 3 years.
Yes.
Yeah, and then and just to fill you all in, he will also be doing the what do you call those gates, Dave?
Bristol Gate.
A Bristol gate further on.
The 2 Bristol Gates.
Yeah, towards the railway,
Yeah.
and then you'll be doing the other gate that you pass through where there's a huge drop off and gets
Yes.
very muddy,
Yeah.
and then you'll be doing the gate that goes to the right, where by the reed where the cattle kick up
Yeah.
all the mud, so you can get through to walk back round to the Red Cap. So all those areas plus the car park are going to be done by Kenny. He says he's going to start mid-September, so let's hope we haven't left that too late. Okay.
That's what I did with the car, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Highways, Malcolm. Anything on highways?
Yes. Outside the Red Cow, the road repair is sinking and causing you to make a little bump as you go across it.
And that's outside Red Cow, is it?
Yeah, I've seen that. It looks like a trailer jockey wheel.
It's
The
bad
metal's hit
bad
something.
repair
And
and
it has left quite a lump dent. I did notice that.
I'll send a note to Aidan Fletcher. I'll ask if she can do that, because there's a couple of other things I've asked her to do as well. So, I mean, not her personally, but her team.
Thank you. Who did the village report?
Malcolm do that.
Malcolm. Oh, you're on, Malcolm.
Yes, the grass areas and hard surfaces were generally okay, but on my first visit there was a tyre jammed onto the top of the mugger, which has now been removed. There are also holes in the safety surface and cracking on the roundabout. The bench behind the mugger was also broken. That's now been repaired. The perimeter fencing was fine. The bin on the green required emptying a couple of times. This is a frequent occurrence now. Car park and boundary okay. In the toilet block, everything was fine apart from the hand dryer in the gents not working.
Okay.
Telephone box was fine. Generally, the condition was, the ground was good.
Okay, thanks. The cracking in the surface, is that what we've
Yeah,
identified
I've
with?
spoken to Simon,
Sean.
whatever his name is, from Shawpond, and he's coming down to have a look at it, take photographs, and then tell us what he's going to do about it. It's under warranty. I think he's somewhat reluctant. I think he thinks that it's been caused by the hot weather, but that's what warranties are all about, as far as I'm concerned. And apparently they're quite hard to patch, so I think he's now wondering whether he's going to have to resurface the whole lot. So we'll have to see what he comes back with his report. But I have said to him that we will expect him to fulfil his warranty.
When are you due to meet him?
I'm not meeting him, he's coming down, taking photographs, he's going to come back to me with a report.
Okay.
And I said after that report, if we're not happy about the outcome, we should want a meeting.
Okay, so you don't want anyone to meet him in the interim?
No,
when he
not at
goes?
this stage. I think it's, I think myself and maybe one of the councillors can meet up with him at some stage
Okay.
and tell him what we're expecting of him.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Malcolm.
Thanks. Tracy's doing this one, kindly.
Tracy?
Did you offer Tracy? Thank you.
Yeah.
You've got a template, haven't you?
Play area, i.e. GB Sports.
I sent you around the report, which is the latest one. I don't think there was anything new on there actually. I think everything seems seems to be okay. In fact, it was GB Sports who pointed out the services. You know, so.
There is quite a lot of low risk stuff on there that we probably should look at some point, because some of it's low risk is more moderate risk in my opinion, and that's not a professional opinion, but when you see things rotting off and whatever, and that's a low risk, you think, well, we probably should be doing something, or thinking that we should do something, because it's rotting off for 2 years on the report, and you think, well, at some point it's going to go.
You lose some loads of media at some point.
So,
Perhaps we should have a look at it.
Yeah, maybe we should. Maybe we should have a good look at it.
things to think about.
You have a scan and have a look at it?
Yeah, we'll have a look at it. Yeah, we will.
See what he's put on there.
Okay.
What we can, give
We'll
it.
get his report and have a
Yeah.
meeting. Chairman's, nothing from me. Clerk's report.
Well, the only thing is that we had a surgery yesterday, and because I don't know what's happened last morning about surgery, is it? Well, we had a surgery yesterday. We had about four or five visitors. So it does seem to be working, having the 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock surgery. We had a Burton Row resident who comes quite regularly, and good to see him. Produces all sorts of stuff about speed. You've seen these things here, which he's provided us with. I've got a feeling that down in Burton Row